I was adopted. I never knew my real mother. Rather, I knew her at one point in time, but I left her side when I was too little to be able to remember. I love my adopted family though. They were so kind to me. I ate well, I lived in a warm and comfortable house, and I got to stay up pretty late. Let me tell you about my family real fast. First, there's my mother. I never called her mom or anything like that. I just called her by her first name, Janice. She didn't mind it all though. I called her out for so long, I don't think she even noticed. Anyhow, she was a very kind woman. I think she was the one who recommended my adoption in the first place. Sometimes I would lay my head against her in front of the television and she would just tickle my back with her nails. She's one of those Hollywood mothers. Second, there's Dad. His real name is Richard, but he never really liked me, so I began to refer to him as Dad in a desperate attempt to gain his affection. It didn't work. I think no matter what I called him, he would never love me as much as his own child. That's understandable, so I really didn't press the matter. The most notable attribute of Dad was his unmoving sternness. He was not afraid to pop his own children when they did something wrong. I found that out before I could even use the restroom properly. He didn't hesitate to spank me. Well, I'm in line, and it's because of his methods. Lastly, is my sister. Little Emily was really young when I was adopted, so we were about the same age, but she was slightly older. I like to think of her as my little sister though. We got along better than any sibling could possibly get along. We always stay up late together and just talk. Well, she did a lot of the talking, I just mostly listened because I loved her. It was a great setup that we had. We were short in bedrooms, so because I didn't want to sleep alone in the living room when I was a lot smaller, I had a pallet set for me next to her bed on the floor. This is where I've slept since. But it was cool of me because I enjoyed being with her and I've always felt pretty protective of my little sis. Everything changed on that horrible Wednesday night. I was at home, taking a nap, when little Emily opened the front door. The sound of the door opening poured me into a state of consciousness, and I walked from the room down to the hall to the living room. That's when I first remember it was Wednesday. I was never any good at keeping track of what day it was. Actually, I'll just go ahead and say it. My sense of time was horrible. But nevertheless, I knew it was Wednesday because of Emily had just come home from her church's youth group gathering. She walked in the front door and hugged me, and then followed with Dad and Janice. "You have a good nap?" Janice said teasingly as she ruffled my hair. I just shook my head away and snorted in a manner that was clearly expressed that I was teasing her back. "Don't snort at your mother like that," said my father briefly with authority. She shut the door behind him and hung his coat. I was clearly joking, I growled under my breath. He must have not heard me because I didn't feel him smack me. Emily then proceeded out to our room, and I followed. She started telling me about her day. You know, usual teenage girl stuff. But I listened so she would feel better. After her summary, she suggested that we started watching TV, and I obliged and jumping onto the couch as she was going for the remote. She rolled her eyes with her little brother-like immaturity and scooted me over and sat down. The TV turned on and we watched it together until the sun went down. Emily was the kind of girl, instead of watching cartoons and soap operas, would rather watch Discovery Channel and Animal Planet and Natural Geographic. I like those too, so I didn't mind. Well, actually, those were the only channels that hold my attention. So, it got late, and Janice walked up behind the sofa. "Emily, it's past your bedtime. Turn off the television and go to your room. You too." She pointed at me. Emily turned off the program we were watching grudgingly and stood up. She started down the hallway to our room. As I followed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. We went into the room and Emily turned off the light. Just as we did, I caught a flash of movement out of the corner of my eye. It was out of the window, But as soon as I redirected my line of sight to where the window was no longer my peripheral vision, what it was that I thought I saw was gone. I still remained alert for my sister's sake. I lied there in darkness, nothing but a thin ray from the street lamp outside to illuminate the room. It wasn't much. Time and time again, I've sworn that I've heard subtle sounds just outside the window. A twig break, leaves crunching, clothes jostling. And all the while I could smell a faint stench of sweat and blood. I kept my eyes open most of the night. The sounds outside subsided, and the smell left my nose. I began to feel at ease, my eyelids closed. Not long after that, I heard a very loud crash on the other side of the house. I was up in an instant. "There's someone in the house!" I barked with extreme adrenaline coursing through me. "Wake up!" I surely pleaded with Emily. She did, and as soon as she did, I saw her sit up, and I ran to my parents' room. Dad was dead. His neck was splayed open and gaping as the blood spilled out of it, off the bed and onto the floor. I saw the master's bathroom door was closed, and just before it, on the outside, was a man. A man. I don't feel comfortable calling it that. He was very large and rugged. He turned around and saw me, and that's when I saw him accurately for the first time. I won't forget it. His eyes were large and beady and trapped with lust. He was styling a beard that was badly unkempt with blood dripping off. His clothes were dirty and his face was cold. Just then I noticed the same horrid smell of sweat and blood from earlier. But this time it was overwhelming. He saw me and grinned with a set of crooked yellow teeth. The smile threw me off. I thought that I was going to die, but then he turned his back to the bathroom door, completely uninterrupted by my presence. I was terrified, and I didn't know what to do. I just yelled and cried. I watched as he shorted through the door that was my mom's only protection. I watched as he raised a large razor that he was carrying, but obviously neglected to use properly. I watched as he sliced her open and tore her to shreds. Then I heard something. The last thing that I wanted to hear. It was Emily. Screams coming from behind me. The large monstrosity looked up from my butchered mother and stared at my little sister. I was distraught. He stood up and quickly started walking towards us. My sis turned and ran, and I was lost when he bypassed me and went straight after her. Why was she still in the house? Had she not assessed the situation and ran? Apparently not. And now, she was dead. I was alone. I ran after both of them. I expected the man to kill her as he did the rest of my family, but I was sadly mistaken. He grabbed her by the arm and jerked her away to make clear that he was in control. He dragged her through my house. I was making all the noises I could now, hoping and praying that someone would come to my aid. He mustn't take her, not her. As he passed, I backed up against the wall and I whimpered with terror. Why? He didn't respond except by putting his free hand on my head while Emily screamed in the other and saying, "Good boy." He gave it another crooked grin and a very cold, unnatural laugh. I followed him to the door where he dragged my helpless sister after him. He opened it, pulled her out, and slammed it shut behind him. I am now sitting in the house with my mutilated adopted parents, shivering and whimpering with dismay. He's out there with her, doing who knows what to her, and I can't do anything. Only I could. I can't. I could chase after them in a heartbeat, but I can't. I sit here, looking at the front door. I look down at my paws. If only I could open doors.